we had Donald Trump convene a cabinet meeting Thursday morning, which wasn't on the books originally, and he told all of his cabinet secretaries, look, you guys have the power to hire or fire people, not Elon Musk. Now, Elon was in the room for this, and he sort of gave his blessing.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by White House reporter Christian Datoc. Christian, President Trump's given his first speech to Congress, the joint session, since returning to the White House. What was sort of the fallout of that?
Well, the fallout was it was super long, for starters. It was the longest presidential address to a joint session of Congress ever. Bill Clinton previously had that record. And what we learned is that, one, Donald Trump is very focused on the quote-unquote wrongs of the Biden administration. He hasn't necessarily outlined a whole new of economic plans, but he still remains a master of optics because he played Democrats like a fiddle during that address. We knew Democrats were going to try and mount some type of opposition. Obviously, Rep. Al Green stood up and started haranguing the president within about 10 minutes and was eventually booted from the chamber. But the president, about an hour into it, started having some of these heartwarming moments, one with an angel mother whose young daughter was allegedly murdered by illegal immigrants, one with DJ Daniel, a 13-year-old cancer patient, and then another one with a young man who was just accepted to West Point. And for all of those moments, Democrats sat on their hands, refused to applaud, and that's what Republicans and most of media are talking about right now. Caroline Leavitt in the press briefing, called them shameful, but really I just think it shows, despite everything going on, uncertainty with his economic agenda and everything happening regarding Ukraine, Donald Trump has his finger on the political pulse, and he's really, again, got a complete mastery of not only the media, but members of his own party as well.
So you've written a story about something called a customer service office in the White House.
That's right, yeah.
I guess people are going to call up and complain if they don't like what's going on. What's that about?
So the office itself is PPO, the Office of Presidential Personnel. It's in every White House, and they're responsible for recruiting, vetting, and then giving recommendations to the president for the 4,000 hires, his political appointees, that will staff the executive branch. And it's interesting because on the one hand, they're making historic pace. They've already extended 2,000 of those 4,000 offers, including 200 that need Senate confirmation. And that comes while DOGE is looking to trim the federal bureaucracy as a whole. So the Trump White House is basically saying, okay, yes, we need to slim down government, but it's also vitally important to get our people in the door so that we can install this agenda that the president has had 4 years to really cook up and implement, right? So it's just interesting because there's little media coverage of this office. It's certainly not as flashy as comms or legislative affairs or anything like this, but they're really going to be the ones hand-picking President Trump's, cabinet secretaries, obviously, but then their deputies, their chiefs of staffs, their policy experts, the people who really will be doing the heavy lifting when it comes to installing his agenda.
And personnel had been a problem in the first term. There was a lot of turnover. There was a lot of tension between whether people who are filling different positions were really on board with the president's agenda. And the conventional wisdom, at least, is that's less of a problem this time around.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think if you look back to 2017, no one really thought Donald Trump was going to win the general election the year prior. So he sort of had to, make do with the Republicans who were available to him. A majority of them, I would probably argue, were antithetical to what he was trying to accomplish. This time around, again, he's had 4 years out to plan this. And there's a couple of staffers in PPO who spent the Biden administration basically pre-vetting anybody so they could come in and hit the ground running and at least install the junior or the mid-level seniority type people who don't need Senate confirmations, and they could really just try and get this thing off the ground as fast as possible. I think it might be a model that we would see incoming presidential administrations try and mimic. Of course, there's never necessarily someone like Donald Trump who was in office, got out for 4 years with all the intents of running out there in the press, even though he didn't formally announce until late 2022. But again, it's kind of amazing. I think in April, at the conclusion of President Biden's first 100 days in office, he had filled roughly 1,500, almost 1,500 of those political appointments, and had sent 231 nominations to the Senate. Trump's already passed that. We're not even halfway through his first 100 days in office. It's quite an amazing pace, quite frankly.
So you mentioned Doge, and President Trump definitely called out Elon Musk in a favorable way during his speech to Congress. But it does look like, at least on paper, maybe there's some recalibration going on there. Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean, I think Elon Musk has had his worst week in office as the shadow president of the United States. I'm kidding, of course. But Doge, they've been keeping this wall of receipts, which they're trying to track all the buckets of government waste, government fraud, abuse, whatever you want to call it. And they've had to revise down that list quite significantly because of erroneous data that they've been publishing. It shrank the total savings from around 16 billion down to 8 billion. It wasn't a quite complete halving of it, but for all intents and purposes, it was. And then on top of that, we had Donald Trump convene a cabinet meeting Thursday morning, which wasn't on the books originally. And he told all of his cabinet secretaries, look, you guys have the power to hire or fire people, not Elon Musk. Now, Elon was in the room for this, and he sort of gave his blessing on that sentiment. But it looks like not only is Musk trying to grapple with the problems of doing his cost-saving strategies at something as big as the federal government, as opposed to a tech startup, he's now also getting reined in a little bit with the president. There might be some concerns that comments Donald Trump made Tuesday night, about Elon Musk being the, quote, head of Doge. That's complicating some of their legal proceedings against some of these judges who are looking to put injunctions on the cuts or the pauses in funding that Doge has outlined over the last month and a half. So it's the end of the honeymoon period officially, but Elon Musk is certainly still in the inside of Donald Trump's inner circle of advisors right now.
It's definitely something that bears watching. Thank you, Christian. You can read Christian and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.